There is a man in your kingdom, okay, in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. That's how they think. And in the days thy father light, and in the days of thy father, light in understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, it's Babylon, okay, was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar, your father, the king, I say, your father made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, for as much as an excellent spirit in knowledge and understanding, interpreting of dreams, and showing of hard sentences, dissolving of doubts, my Lord, were found in the same Daniel, whom the king named Belshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. Then was Daniel brought in before the king, and the king spake and said to Daniel, are you that Daniel? Now, Daniel was in leadership. I don't know whether he was still in leadership at this time, but so he grew up under Daniel. But anyway, when people know your gifts and they don't want to acknowledge you, yet they need you, he don't want to acknowledge Daniel and who he is, but yet he need Daniel. Because all those pagan things he was believing in couldn't help him at all. Yeah, his lords and the Chaldeans and the soothsayers and the astrologers and magicians, they couldn't do anything. Those are the things we be going to, many of us, not all of us, the psychics, the palm readers, the card people. Yeah. Okay. So it says, then was Daniel brought in before the king, and the king spake and said unto Daniel, are you that Daniel, which are of the children of the captivity of Judah, okay, whom the king my father brought out of Jewry? I have even heard of you, that the spirit of the gods is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom is found to you. And now the wise men, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, and they that they should read this writing, that they should and make it known unto me the interpretation thereof, but they could not show the interpretation of the thing. And I have heard of you that you can make interpretation, dissolve doubts. Now if you can read the writing and make known unto me the interpretation thereof, you shall be clothed with scarlet and have chain of gold about your neck, and should be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then Daniel, because Daniel, the next chapter, he ended up being second ruler, so your third, I'm just saying. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, let your gifts be to yourself, and give your rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known unto him the interpretation. O you king, the most high God gave Nebuchadnezzar your father a kingdom and majesty and glory and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled in fear before him. Whom he would, he slew, and whom he would, he kept alive. He's talking about Nebuchadnezzar. And whom he would, he set up, and whom he would, he put down. But when his heart was lifted up. Sometimes we can be in position, Lord, season my words with salt in the name of Jesus. You hit it real quick. Sometimes when we get into positions, or through our giftings, even from God, it can, and even wisdom, can puff us up. Intelligence can, especially in the world, puff people up. And their hearts be lifted. And so with Nebuchadnezzar, God sent a warning. For his heart was so hardened to God, because he didn't really believe in him, because he was Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, which is confusion in Babel. So his heart was lifted up, and because of his authority that Daniel just said, whom he chose to do this to and do that, God gave him that power. But when the report came to him, he didn't believe the power. He didn't believe the report. And so with not believing the report, not the power, but also the power, but he didn't believe the report. So he had to experience the report. And that's when he went those 7 years, I believe, walking like a beast and looking like one. Okay, so he didn't receive the report. So here is his grandson or son. He says in verse 20 of Daniel 5, but when his heart was lifted up and his mind hardened in pride, God hates the prideful, he was disposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him, and he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beast, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God ruled in kingdoms of men, and that he appoints over it whomsoever the Lord will. But God is doing the appointing. So he said, and you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, though you knew all this. So you even know who Daniel is, because Daniel was also given position with Nebuchadnezzar. And a decree went out. You had to, honor, because Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, Mishael, Azariah, and I always forget the other one. Azariah, then you got that. Here go their names, their actual names, because those names are pagan gods. A lot of people don't realize that those are not their real names, even though we call those names so boldly. So it says Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So he's telling him this, and you knew all of this. You already knew all of this, and evidently you thought God had changed. Like millions of us think God has changed. So, people don't believe in this and don't believe in that, regardless if it's written in scripture. And so many of us have to live out the example of the report, because when he sends a messenger, we refuse the messenger. So there's only one determination. That's what one told the king. Oh, I know God has determined evil against you because you won't receive the report. So it says, verse 23, before that he said, though you knew all of this, but have lifted up yourself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before you, the Lord's house before you. And you and your lords, your wives, your concubines have drunk wine in them, and you have praised the gods of silver and gold, could be money or wealth or whatever, and of brass and iron and wood and stone and sage and all kinds of stuff, which see not, nor hear, nor know. And the God in whose hand you breathe, in the God's whose hands you breathe, is, that's that breath, your breath is, in whose are all thy ways, have you not glorified. So we glorify stones and people and cars and all this stuff, and won't glorify the God whose breath, that's not breath, that's breath, is in, our breath is in his hand. Like, he gives life, he takes life away. He gives and he takes. And many of us have forgotten the Most High God is the one and only God. I mean, some of us thinking we gods now. I mean, we just go on flip crazy, just like Eve, even though we know about Adam and Eve, even though we know all of this, as he said in his word. So it says we rely on our giftings, and we rely on money, and we rely on fame, and people that's quote-unquote stars, and we relying on the meteorologists, and we relying on presidents, and we're relying on all these things that God created.